Last week I was in Texas. This week I'm in Alaska. So this is on the pre-recorded edition of Commander's Log, where we're talking about the Star Trek short treks, the brightest star and the girl who made the stars. And of course, you're going to see this live, sorta, kinda. Me and the captain are going to duke it out after the jump.
This episode of Commander's Log is brought to you by Geek Renaissance. Need that special gift for the nerd in your life? Love supporting small business? Look no further than Geek Renaissance. The artist Sephra makes all items by hand and will boldly go to the final frontier for your unique gift. Head over to geekrenaissance.company.site and use the code FLOBITO, that's FLOBITO, to get 10% off your order. Don't forget to follow, like, and share Geek Renaissance on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And that song gets me so hyped. It's not about me, Captain on the bridge. What's going on, Captain? It feels so epic, and it's all let down after that. It's like, what are we doing?
I love your theme, man. I love that theme. Hey, number one, thank you for having me aboard the mighty USS Recap. Am I getting that
Post
right?
show.
Post show, the USS Post show.
Yeah, the recaps are decommissioned. Yeah.
Hang on, I gotta have a little more of my booze.
That Romulus ale. Hey man, look, if you're watching this live, thank you, or you're watching it now. It's not really live, it's pre-recorded. But I know after this, you'll be doing the Picard recap on Weber Internet Thingy. It's a thingy, but you can't really hold it in your hand. You can hold a phone in your hand, you go to a laptop in your hand. How can someone engage with you at the Picard After Show?
You can find us on Facebook, Starbase 80. That's a great show that is part of the Weber Internet Thingy. You can also find that on Facebook. So just type in Weber Internet Thing, and you don't have to put the Y or the IE on the end of thingy. I'm sure it'll finish it for you. But anyway, yeah, come on by. Catch us on Picarder. That's what we're calling our post show for Picard season 2.
Yeah, at first I thought you were being ridiculous, but I've seen so many characters running while sparks are flying around them. They could be a Die Hard spinoff. Why not?
You know, there's a lot going on. You and I had this conversation of like, should we do a show about Picard? And then you were like, and I was there too, and I was like, ooh. And then I wasn't going to do it. And then my co-hosts were talking to me about it. And they were like, are you sure you don't want to do a show? And then I was like, I tell you what, if you guys do it with me, we can do it. And so I've got Leo Genesek, I've got Chris Pitcher, and I've got Joe Townsell on the show. And these guys entertain the hell out of me. I know they'll entertain you. And if they don't, you might be entertained by them entertaining me.
You can't lose. But Captain, we have business at hand. We're talking about 2 more episodes of short tracks, which is something thankfully you handpicked, you have cultivated for us to go through. And let's start off with the most controversial one, not necessarily in subject alone, because we have 2 very different opinions about this. The Brightest Star. This one's featuring our man Saru back on Kaminar, back when fear was all the rage, and the events leading up to him being selected by Starfleet.
I had always wondered, how did a guy from such a peaceful, they're basically they eat seaweed. They're there's these amphibious beings who they harvest seaweed. And then they themselves are harvested. They're not the apex predators on their planet. They are also a food source for the Baulians. Baulians. And I honestly never wanted to watch this one. I watched it last night for the first time. And I'm sorry, that's where my TV is. I'm like winking at my TV like you and me. We had a good time.
No, we did.
I was depressed at the thought of going back into Saru's past and seeing what it was like to grow up poor. Don't have to do that again. I don't want to do that again. Did it
Well, you
once.
grew up? I've been a kid forever. I'm still growing up. I'm still poor too. So.
I'm not sure I grew up, but I was poor. And it, that kind of like going backwards in Saru's story. I was not thrilled about doing that. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I watched it because it explains so many things that I had no explanation for. I couldn't even guess what Saru's story was. Mm-hmm. It's actually a fascinating story. And really tells us a lot about how he feels about his family. And then as the show develops, how he feels about his home world. It really added a lot. It filled in a lot of gaps for me.
So I think the fact it does is why I don't like it. It's actually one of my least favorite short treks. And Kaz and I, we fought over it. Was a big giant cartoon cloud with stars and spirals before we went like I feel like if there was a short treks comic book, this would be the perfect story for that. I can imagine the inks of the fields and the small little huts and all that stuff. But as a thing, it's kind of at least to me. We had a lot of episodes. We had the what's his name of the ritual. I'm blanking on it. Varaha. We had all that stuff talked about before through the course of the main series. Having Saru come up there to me was like, yeah, all right. I can imagine a cross T would go here. I looked past the typo, but you went back and gave me something I already had filled in my mind. So it's more superfluous rather than outright bad.
Well, these sorts of origin stories are not necessarily, they're not necessary most of the time, honestly.
True.
I don't need to know why somebody left their small town. It was a small town. That's why you left.
Right. Well, that begs the question, though. I hate to cut you off there. What's the best prequel of all time? It's like, I think there are a lot more better sequels than prequels.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna go absolutely bizarre on you here, and I'm gonna go John Archer from Star Trek Enterprise.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Because his father had a big hand in developing warp-capable technology, but his father, who probably should have been allowed to be part of the first mission away from Earth for the what eventually would become Starfleet, didn't get to. So the father's frustration was passed down to Jonathan Archer. So Jonathan Archer is a big chip on his shoulder when Enterprise begins, and that explanation really helps a lot. There's a lot of good backstories to a lot of Star Trek characters, but that's the first one I can think of where I go, oh, I know everything I need to know about you just from that one issue.
Well, I mean, I get that. So let's shift it back to Saru a bit, right? So he has his origin story. He has his own familial problems because everybody's all scared. And he's like, maybe we should not be scared. What's this about? I have questions. And I was like, how dare you have questions? Now, John, walk me through this, man. I know we've been in situations like that where we decide to go outside of our own family or our own warm womb, or you're met with resistance because of tradition or just fear or anything like that. Did this really relate to you, or did it seem kind of a TV trope type of a deal?
That's a great question because I feel like there's a lot of tension between that. How sort of typical is this? But on the other hand, how atypical is Saru that made this happen? And we get the answer to both questions, which is it's very atypical among Saru's people for someone to go, I think there's more. Though, the guys who eat us come from the stars. Why don't we get to go to the stars?
Right.
And actually, that kind of questioning frees people. Not to get so heavy on it, but
heavy, baby.
Why doesn't everyone? I remember being a kid, and my parents were very good at raising us to respect everyone, to appreciate that not everyone has the same advantages in society, that people who question that, Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. These are people who are raising good questions. Why do I have to follow a tradition that holds me down to this level while other people are up here?
Mm-hmm.
And why am I not given opportunities? Why is it against the system, or in this case of Saru, the balance? That's
right.
That's their God, is the balance and the idea of nature. Yes, we exist, but we're also eaten, and that is just nature, and that is the balance. And that's their religion. That's their spirituality.
So
That blows my mind.
What is interesting about that is because the original balance was the opposite way. If you are into that kind of thing, the Kelpians used to be the predators to the Bahul. They used to like bring to extinction, and the Bahul got wise, got smart, and basically turned the tide. So there is that layer of tradition. That's how long we've always been doing it, but no one's lived long enough to know that it used to be the opposite. And so even though Saru looks like an iconoclast, I mean, he's kind of like saying, you know, what's wrong with thinking this? Why do we have this technology? Why come we can't use this? And he goes rogue because of it, John. He goes rogue. He does a beacon. Ha, patooey.
Even better is the fact that anytime I'm still trying to figure out how the technology fell off the ship. That's
hey man, I got a white van. You know, look, got to throw this out.
I mean, you're from the New York area. You know, people sell things that have fallen off of ships.
Yeah, man. You heard of Sony? This is Sunny. Bada boom. Okay.
so he finds this piece of technology, and he is just so naturally good at technology that he figures out how to turn it into a beacon and exchange basic language and messages that become much more complex, I guess, as time goes on with someone up in the stars. We don't know quite yet who that someone is, but oh, that was a great ending. You got to love that ending.
Stardust, basically what it was. You know, it was Cody Rhodes. And so I want to compare Saru to someone who's also religious, and that is Kira Nerys from DS9. She definitely is someone that understands technology a little bit more advanced, so maybe an unfair comparison, but she's always kept her faith. But for me, it felt like in this piece, Saru had to choose between like the way you believe or outside the house. And that may be a little bit tough for some people to internalize, no?
You know, my mom was a minister, so I know what it's like.
I did know that.
Yeah, my mom was she was a Methodist minister, but for a long stretch there, she was a Baptist minister.
Oh.
And I'm very proud of her. It was her calling. She very much wanted to do that. I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of moral ways, we were raised right, but we were also very provincial. They thought it very weird that I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a comic. I wanted to move away. I wanted to go to New York City. I wanted to go to LA. That never quite fit in with their world. So I really kind of understand that, because Saru's dad is like the holy man of the village. He's a preacher's kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's also a really good kid. He takes care of stuff. Yeah. That's how he gets that technology, because his dad was like, hey, you got to get rid of that. That's one thing we do. We don't let any technology exist in our hands. You got to get rid of it. Of course, Saru doesn't. He doubles down and he learns to use it.
Well, the ending is very Green Lantern. I guess can we spoil? Do we spoil? Are we going to spoil this?
Let's spoil it. Let's spoil it.
The most Green Lantern thing ever, the beacon gets stopped by Starfleet, and Giorgio arrives. I guess classic Giorgio, not Prime. But I'm not Terra Giorgio, but Prime Giorgio. She arrives and gives the most bureaucratic answer ever. He goes, look, man, I got room for you on this bus. You got to put away everything you know about your identity and personality. And so he was like, okay, I'm in the band. And he goes, zoom. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, am I paraphrasing wrong?
You are being so mean. Oh my God, you're so mean.
Did I do that wrong?
The basic thing that he asks is, can I come back?
Yeah.
Because he's thinking, like anyone who loves their family, who loves their hometown. It's like, if I'm going to go off and do great things, I get to bring stuff back, right? I get to come back and make sure everybody's okay. And Giorgio's like, that's not going to happen. You gotta be all in on this leaving and pulling up roots. And as we know from watching Discovery, of course, his heart was always back there. Eventually he returns. And when they go way forward in the future, he goes back to a very evolved planet, and he's very important to them. And I just love that arc too, where he becomes like this elder statesman, not only of his people, but of his planet. I love Saru. I love the character. I know he's super sweet, and that turns some people off, but I just love it.
I kid. It's actually pretty solid. You know, even though it's my least favorite short trek, it's not a bad one necessarily, even though John and I fought a tooth and nail over it. Before we move on to the girl who made the stars, any last thoughts or notes about this one, The Brightest Star?
Once I saw Michelle Yeoh basically doing a cameo in this, I was like, these are so good.
Mm-hmm.
These are so good. And I love the fact that they just put so much talent into them. This one, the writers on this one, Bo Yun Kim, Erica Lipdolt, Douglas Aronofsky, Arnowski. Sorry, Douglas. This was not like a team I've seen before, and this was early. This was the third short trek that they made too, so they really felt it was important to tell this story. I agree with them on that. I like this story. I'm glad I watched it.
Well, we got to move on to what seemingly become my favorite short trek, The Girl Who Made the Stars, because it's animated. I love it. Didn't expect that was going to be the case. I thought it'd be all live action. Definitely a fable in space, but it has this Wakanda vibe. It's like the future and the past with technology and mystical stuff there. John, why'd you pick this one? Thoughts about this one? The Girl Who Made the Stars.
I really do love the character of Michael Burnham. I think her importance in Star Trek is still yet to be realized by most of the fans. Mm-hmm. And that's fine, because she's in the current Trek, and the current Trek almost always doesn't get enough love.
Right, yeah.
Almost always. So Strange New Worlds, we'll see. I have a feeling people are going to freaking love that one.
I hope so. I'm like, I like them better on Discovery, but it's too much now. the Cars 2 principle. Too much mater.
The interesting thing about Michael Burnham is she is a great scientist. She is a great leader. She is a warrior. She is so many tremendous things. It's funny you would mention Wakanda. She is so Wakandan in her, forward thinking, her courage, the fact that she values everybody around her. These are great qualities of any kind of a character. What I do love about The Girl Who Made the Stars is we meet her at like 4. She's like 4 or 5.
Yeah, because she's not even doing like proper words yet. I'm squared.
And she's, I mean, look, I honestly wish I had kids just so I could show them this.
Yeah, it's adorable. And not to say that I hate kids, but I don't get the fatherly instinct. I don't get the warm and fuzzies, but this one was kind of cute because just to give a little bit of a plot line, there were no stars back then. There was all darkness at night. The night beast, which was this mythical snake, will come and eat you, and I got to say, sidebar, this is not the point of my recap, but so my parents are West Indian, and I would go back to the mother country over the summers, and they have street lights every once in a while, but like the streets are like rolling hills with sugar cane, tall stalks of grass. So the nightfall, it was scary. Like let's call it in. So having her journey across the barrier to find a glow, and the glow gave her the stars, I said to myself, that's cool. And her walking with the little like lightning bug in the glass was so cute. Yeah, my heart melted. It was like, oh, little short little legs. Like, it was great. It was great.
And if it had been Disney, that lightning bug would have had a personality. Probably would have been played by a comedian. Maybe Hannibal Buress would be playing him. I don't know.
You saw Princess and the Frog. They literally did that. And they had a song. They gave the Lightning Bug a song.
But
crazy.
you know, it's interesting. There was a comic book, maybe about I think at this point it's like 20 plus years ago, called Manhunter.
Okay.
And it was one of the times that they were bringing back Manhunter at DC. It was a character who's had many different forms, but this one, it was based on there's a nemesis character assumed to be on the outside of village life. And this is something that all cultures have. All cultures have a history of going back to their people living in villages and having no light, and the night being frightening, the night being the nemesis of the people who live during the day. So I love that, the fact that that is very endemic to all humans.
Yeah.
It's a story about Africa, but everybody is part of this story.
I am so glad that it wasn't just me. I'm like, I'm such a wuss.
No, I'm telling, dude. Okay. Quick stupid story. I was 9 years old. We were visiting relatives who lived out in the country. I had never seen those bug zappers, those like glowing bug zappers.
Yeah.
And so at night, I was walking from where my parents were having this party to where the house where we were staying. So that was like a quarter of a mile or something. Not terrible. And it's way back in the old days. So little kids were, what was I? I was like 12, 13. I wasn't a little kid. Yeah. But it wasn't unusual that I might be walking. And I remember like having no idea what that glowing purple thing going was.
Yeah.
And not knowing that there were like one in every yard. So I was like, is that thing sneaking around the houses and like following me?
Whoa. That's a cool premise. Like, not it being a bug zapper, obviously, but if you were walking on the street and things were zapping around the house, that'd be a cool like horror movie premise.
I mean, that's what I was seeing. I was seeing Jason, except it was a purple glow going zit, 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 zit. It was bugs dying, John, you silly goose.
I don't care, man. Nighttime out in the countryside where there's like no taxis, none of that. It's just so weird. So weird to me.
True.
But what was cool about the I want to skip to the end here. But the last scene was that we see the girl in the legend become almost an adult, and she almost had this warrior type thing to her. And at that point, I was like, I want myself a sequel. I want a sequel of this world. I want a bedtime story. What's her deal? Able to shoot bow and arrow, wearing sandals. What is going on there, John?
I felt exactly the same way, because the little girl in the story seems to be played by the little girl that the story's being told to, which is little toddler Michael Burnham. And then her father says, who's telling her the story, says she grew up to be a queen and a great warrior and leader. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she's got like the shield and the spear, and she's like jumping in the air. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't think it was terrible to see Sonequa Martin Green dressed up like that doing some action adventures, man.
That's what I'm saying. Night piece for everyone. So little Michael Burnham says, I don't need the nightlight off. So dad wins the mission of saving on his light bill. And so let me ask you this, John. Were there other opportunities there if you ever decide to have a sequel? Let's say you couldn't do the adult thing. Did you have any ideas for something you would have about the kid? That the kid was like having another bedtime story. If they wanted another dad, help me out here. All right, got it.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no. I absolutely wouldn't say no. But the reason why I would be all in on it would not necessarily be a storytelling reason. It would be who the story is told to reason.
Right.
I feel like kids would really dig a series or a mini series. Because let's remember, Michael Burnham is a genius. She's not only a great scientist, she's one of the greatest. And so the kid is going to be super smart, and she's going to be able to apply that. And, let's face it, kids need all kids need to be encouraged to get a better education, to think more, to use critical thinking, to do better than the old farts who are running things right now. And I want to encourage all kids to do that. So that would be great. I would love to see that. On the other hand, I also love the like honoring, the history of your people.
Absolutely.
I love that movie Brave.
That was in my notes also. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. With the Scottish girl getting the hair out of her face while she's, pulling back on the bow. I love all those stories. I think those stories are important to tell to kids. And let me get super, super liberal here. Really important to tell girls.
Oh, okay. It's funny because like I bought a ticket to see Brave solo, and I loved it. But I was kind of like, you know what? I just wanted a war movie. The bear stuff is cool. And I was like, bro, you're in your mid-30s. Why are you critiquing? It's not for you. I want a war film. It's a Pixar movie. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Right.
That's so dumb.
You weren't wrong. I mean, that would be great for you. But yes, it really did get a lot of girls. It's funny because the Hunger Games movies were going on at the same time. And I had friends who were raising their daughters, and they're like, "Oh my God, the archery!
Yeah,
oh Lord,
yeah."
All my girls want to do is archery.
Well, it's weird because before we used to say I had friends who had daughters. Now they say they're girl dads. Anyway, one girl dad was like, "My daughter wants to be named Arya now. I was learning to do a crossbow." And it's like, oh, there you go. Last thing I note for me on my notes before I ask you your final thing was I really like the score here. The score here was epic and whimsical. It made me on the ride. I felt the snake. I felt the light. I felt everything.
Oh, I did not notice the score.
How could you? So I'm tied up in Kelpian politics. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to assume that this was a Joe Russo score. And I could be wrong about that, but Russo's music just absolutely does it for me. I love the music that he's done for Star Trek, that he's done for Picard and for Discovery. There was a show called Counterpart. If you could ever find on YouTube, if you can ever find the opening credits to Counterpart, they're beautiful to watch, but his music is incredible. Yeah. Music is a really good, strong thing in Star Trek right now.
Says Chris Bowers got credit for it.
Okay.
Chris Bowers, it says on IMDb, I'm quoting here, so I'm not doing my own research. Chris Bowers is known for his work in Space Jam, A New Legacy, Bridgerton, When They See Us, Person of Color as well.
Damn.
So Bridgerton, DMZ, Inventing Anna, Raising Dion, King Richard, at the Serena.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, that I was like, whoa, this is a dope soundtrack. I like it.
That's fantastic. Well, more power to him. He's doing great work.
I'm gonna follow him on Instagram. Maybe get one on my podcast. But about me putting myself over. John, any final thoughts before you put yourself over?
Look, I was trying to figure out the whole time while watching it, who is this guy playing the voice of Michael Burnham's father?
Mm-hmm.
So I did my research.
Okay.
And I didn't realize this, that Michael Burnham is named after her dad, Mike Burnham.
Oh, okay. I had to get reminded that. Yeah.
Okay, so the actor who plays him is Kenrick Green.
Okay.
If you look up Kenrick Green, the character in this cartoon is modeled completely on his face. Good-looking guy, actor.
Oh, yeah. Very unique features, though. Yeah.
It gets better. Kenrick Green is the reason why Sonequa Martin's -Green. That's her name. She's married to Kenrick Green.
She's married to her TV dad.
She's married to her TV dad.
Man, stay winning. What? Gets the bag and the girl? I am doing life wrong.
This is what I know about Discovery. If you're on Discovery, you might be able to get your significant other on too.
Well, what was the name of that virtual Zora we had last week? Is she single? Let me know.
I'll go look her up for you, man.
And there was one character a couple weeks ago. Her name was it's Picard. Dang, all right, I gotta figure this out. I want to find someone who's single and then hit her up.
Using Star Trek as your dating pool, I say more power to you.
You can't lose. You can't lose. We gotta get out of here, man. We've talked about the show too long enough. Commander's Log. We'll be back here next week with more live episodes. Frankly, I'll be back by Alaska, hopefully and graciously by then. Going back to some of the classic stuff until we lead up to Strange New Worlds that starts May 5th. But we have some cool animated shows to talk about as well. Yeah. John, we mentioned the top of the show, but now it's the bottom of the show. And in just a few moments, the Picard recap is happening over at the Internet Thingy. How do I connect with that?
Find me at on Facebook. You can find us on the Starbase 80 page. Just put in Starbase 80. You'll find us or Weber Internet Thingy. And on YouTube at Weber Internet Thingy. We'd love to have you join because me and the boys are actually having a great time watching the second season of Picard. I didn't see that coming.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was also a little bit, I'm mildly impressed with the improvements this season, but it's fine. But we gotta get out of here. But until next time, that's Mr. Tilly, and I'm Mr. Commander Non. Live long and prosper.